let's give Gene a hand. The main man, Gino.
Let me turn this one off. Is that what? Yeah, okay. How's everybody doing this morning? You still okay? Since the last time you were asked? All right, good deal. Well, we are glad you're here. We appreciate you being here. He was talking about that first time, 14 years ago, whatever it was. And I was thinking about that. I was not on the staff at that time. I'd been part of the team that put the new Mid-America together after Zach and Stacy took over, but they couldn't afford me at the time. I couldn't afford not to be afforded, so I had to go off and do some other things. But I did get to deliver the Keynote that year, and that was an exciting thing for me. And I was counting them up. This will be the 6th one, and they keep asking me back, so they are gluttons for punishment. And I really appreciate the relationships that we've built down through the years. It's good every year. Some of you I only see these days, now that I'm not so much in operations as I once was. I only see you once a year, but I'm always glad to see you. I'm always glad to see you doing well, and I'm glad to see that you survived a very difficult year. Since 2017, we've only had one, and it's behind us, and we have a brand new year ahead of us, and that's what we're going to talk about this morning for just a few minutes. The title of my speech this morning is The Deployables. Not the deplorables, the deployables. How to become an indispensable adjuster. How to become an indispensable adjuster. On Highway 81, somewhere near Woodstock, Virginia, I was headed home. It was late, but my journey from Philadelphia to Grand Prairie, Texas, where I lived at the time, I was going home from 100 or so dam denials due to ice damming. It had been kind of a rough storm. If not for one fire claim, I may have actually had the one storm in my life that I didn't make money on. But that fire claim saved me, and it was over, and I was going home, and I was excited to be headed home at last from Philadelphia back to Texas. As I drove down the road late at night, to my left lay the Shenandoah Valley, and to my right rose the Monongahela Forest and the Appalachians. Above, the sky was cloudless and the stars were brilliant. My headlights cut the darkness before me into cones. And I can tell you my mood was captured in the next song on my playlist. Every adjuster has one. The ones that you play on the way to the storm and the ones that you play on the way home. And hopefully the ones on the way home are really happy tunes. But the next tune was John Denver. Take me home, country road, to the place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home, country roads. Well, I was close enough to West Virginia to see her evergreen and mysterious mountain beauty, but I was a long, long way from home. And I'll tell you, I hit replay about 3 times singing that song, Take Me Home, Country Roads. I might have been doing a little bit of that cry singing, singing through the tears as I hit repeat. I was headed home. If you're a catastrophe adjuster, you know that feeling. A storm is a strange experience. When you're in the middle of it, you're working 14 to 18-hour days, 7 days a week, living out of a suitcase, sleeping in your truck or some hotel in name only, where the bed makes the floor look tempting, you know what I'm talking about? Eating bologna sandwiches and cookies made especially for you by the Keebler elves in the treehouse factory. It feels like that's how the world works, doesn't it? When you're in the middle of the storm, it feels like this is how the world works. You're in the fog of war. Emails are flying, nerves are fraying, spam is frying on the extended stay stove. Mandatory calls disrupt your day. The written rules of engagement, which you committed to memory on your way to the storm, are rewritten on the fly. New day, new directive. Good luck. Why do you think they call us adjusters? Because that's what we do. We adjust. And then we adjust again. But then you get that call. You've been there for a week, you've been there for a month, you've been there for 3 months, however long the storm has lasted for you, and you get that call or you get the email and it says that your work here is done, it's time to pack up and go home. And in that instant, the world changes from the frantic haze of deployment to the comparative peaceful existence outside the storm. That clenched fist and jaw finally relax. The stress subsides like the receding tide after the hurricane surge. You may even hear a bird sing. You might notice a tree that didn't fall on a house. You may navigate roads that are not littered with fallen trees and debris and aren't blocked for passage. The sky may at last be a brilliant blue, and if there is a cloud, it's a little fluffy, harmless cloud. The storm has passed, and the world has changed. And that's the strangeness, isn't it, of the storm? When you're in it, it's like this is how the world has always been, and when it's over, at least for me, it's as if it never happened. Except, hopefully, for the added zeros in your bank account, right? The storm has passed, and all of that stress and all of that hard work and all of that staying up and burning the midnight oil and working until you drop and then getting up the first thing the next morning and working again. And then 2025 comes along and you realize how much you missed that, right? How much that meant to you. I used to tell folks that being an adjuster is kind of a funny thing, because if you don't have a storm, we just got past the holidays. If you don't have a storm, well, there goes Christmas. And if you do have a storm, well, there goes Christmas. It's not easy. It's not an easy calling. Adjuster is a good, strong word for what we do, because we adjust to the times, we adjust to the demands, we adjust, and then we adjust again. That's what we do. We're adjusters. From that Philadelphia storm and other storms, I have ridden like a cowboy for the sunset. In one pickup truck or another, a ladder, a laptop, a suitcase in tow, I was headed home, taking with me the scars of battle, the stories of loss and life, and the lessons learned. But let me back up. I spent the 4.5 years before I became an adjuster. And by the way, I think just about everybody in here who is an adjuster. How many of you are adjusters? Oh, good. This isn't a convention for adjusters. You're in the right spot. I think most of us have the before and after, right? I've often called it Adjust You. I say it all the time. I say it until Stephanie and Jonathan want to throw up. This is the accidental career. Nobody grows up dreaming of being an adjuster. When you were a little kid and you were thinking about what you would be when you grew up, and if everything fell your way and everything went the way you dreamed, someday you'd be an adjuster, nobody. I've asked that question of thousands of people, and I've only had one guy raise his hand, and he was a liar. Nobody grows up dreaming of being an adjuster. I didn't. You didn't. All of us had a life before that, right? We did something else. And then we stumbled onto it because we knew somebody who made a lot of money on a storm. That's how most of us became adjusters. Word of mouth. Unless you grow up in Mobile, Alabama, where everybody's an adjuster. Before I was an adjuster, the 4.5 years prior to being an adjuster, I was a school teacher. You see why I'm an adjuster now. And I was a middle school teacher to boot, which is to say I vacillated between being a warden of an insane asylum, a referee of a WWE cage match, a grief counselor, because there's no grief like boyfriend, girlfriend trouble when you're in middle school, and sometimes an educator. Like most teachers, I supplemented my income. I worked part-time for a while as an insurance underwriting inspector for a place called Reliable Reports. I was not an adjuster, but without knowing it at the time, I was training for what was coming. I didn't know it. Back then, I bought this every year. I bought this big spiral-bound book called MAPSCO. Any of you remember MAPSCO? Anybody ever had a MAPSCO? I mean, it weighed about 20 pounds. And they came out with a new one every year. And I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and it's always expanding. So by the time the new MapsGo comes out, the old one's obsolete. Because now there's all these new communities and all these new streets that aren't on the old one. And I can't tell you how it felt every year to run down to Barnes & Noble as soon as it hit the shelves and buy my new MapsGo. It was so exciting. It was almost, it's the same feeling you get when you drop that thing you've been having your eyes on for a long time in your Amazon cart. Right? I was excited every year to get the MapsGo. Boy, I'm glad those things are gone. But then I became an unexpected, unlikely insurance adjuster. I became a catastrophe adjuster. And I was introduced to a brand new tool, Microsoft Streets and Trips. Anybody remember that? So now, I didn't need MapsGo anymore. I left all the MapsGos at home. I asked my wife the other day, I said, I'd like to have a MapsGo just to hold up and show everybody what it looked like. They're long gone. They're gone. And you know what? If you go on eBay, some of them are selling for like $400. So if you have one, eBay that sucker. Anyway, I was so glad to be rid of MapsGo. And I had my laptop, and I was driving around New Orleans, which was tore up and the street signs were all gone. But I didn't need a street sign. I had Microsoft Streets and Trips. I knew exactly where I was. I knew exactly. And not only that, but I could take all the claims that they gave me and I could dump it into Microsoft and it would route it for me. Do you remember that? Man, that was technology. That was technology. You see how fast everything has changed, how much it's changed from that time to this. Not only that, I had a cell phone. Hadn't had one very long. It wasn't a smartphone, but neither was I. To a guy who grew up making prank calls on rotary phones, it was a big deal to have a cell phone. I remember when my dad had a phone installed in the kitchen next to the refrigerator. Up there, where you could stand up is about chest high to Mom. And it had an extra long cord. And that way Mom could cook dinner and talk on the phone and go anywhere she wanted in the kitchen and even into the living room if she desired. And never have to hang up the phone. And it was great fun when she got done for the kid to get to untangle that. You just hold it up and watch it go. Remember that? So cell phones, even if they weren't smartphones, they were a big deal for me because I grew up in the rotary phone era. I've been in this business for 20 years now. And I can tell you that in my 20 years as an insurance claims adjuster, the only thing that this business has done is change and stay the same. It's done both. It's changed exponentially, but some things about this business never change. The winds of change have blown steadily across the bow of the adjuster ship. In Texas, we have a saying, if you don't like the weather, wait a minute. You can say the same thing about the rules and the rules of engagement for the adjuster. They change with the wind. I have seen protocols and directives change a half dozen times on a single storm. It's this way, do it this way, do it this way. And the next day, disregard the former directive. Anybody been through that? Yeah. If you're easily annoyed or you're put off by change, you're probably in the wrong seat today. Change is a constant in the claims business, and it will remain so. And you ain't seen nothing yet. The changes coming now are happening at breakneck speed. Artificial intelligence is here, and it brings with it changes we might be able to anticipate and some we'll never see coming. If you think about some of the facts, I want to give you some facts about the current speed of change. 4 facts. Number 1, the speed of technological adoption. If we compare today's technologies and how fast they get to 100 million users versus yesterday's technology. The telephone. When the telephone was introduced to American society, to the world, it took 75 years for the telephone to reach 100 million users. When the cell phone was introduced, it took 16 years for the cell phone to reach 100 million users. When Instagram was introduced, it took 2.5 years. And when ChatGPT was introduced, it took 2 months. 2 months. The window to learn a new system has shrunk from years to weeks. The deployable adjuster is the one who can do like a United States Marine, adapt and overcome in the fog of war and at breakneck speed. Number 2, let's talk about exponential data growth. The rules of engagement are changing because the data available to the insurance companies that we service is exploding. And we have carriers here that will tell you they are dealing with data today that they didn't have access to a year ago, and sure didn't have access to 5 years ago, and they're still figuring out how best to deploy that data, and believe me, they will. They will. Here's a fact. According to IBM and various data science studies that have been done by IBM and others, listen to this, 90% of the data in the world today has been created in the last 2 years. 90%. So what's the application for me as an adjuster? It means that I'm moving from looking at a roof and identifying damage to managing drone imagery, 3D imagery, AI-assisted estimating, all these tools that are at my disposal that I have to learn to navigate and that I have to learn to utilize so that I remain deployable and indispensable to the industry. What about the AI impact on claims processing? That's number 3. I mentioned AI is bringing changes we can't see coming. And here's a statistic that highlights the shift from human only to human augmented adjusting. A report by LexisNexis Risk Solutions, say that 3 times fast, found that over 70% of the insurers are now using or testing AI for claims processing. But there is a stay the same reality because AI can, in several seconds, can process a photo of a damaged roof or a dented fender or whatever it is, but AI cannot navigate a frustrated policyholder through the trauma of a house fire. You still matter as an adjuster, but only if you can balance technology and empathetic humanity. This is my favorite, number 4. It's called the half-life of skills. The half-life of skills. In the 20 years I've been in the business, the shelf life of a technical skill has plummeted. Now let me give you a definition in case you don't understand what a half-life of a skill is. The half-life of a learned skill is the period of time it takes for half of the information or value in a specific skill set to become obsolete or superseded by new development. So you learn a new trade, you learn a new skill. And the time it takes for half of what you learned to become obsolete or be replaced by something new, that's the half-life of a skill set. And we're told by the World Economic Forum that in today's world right now, the half-life of almost all skills is about 5 years. So, how many of you have been adjusting for at least 15 years? Keep your hand up if that's 20 years. 25? 30? 35? 40? Boom, Ron. So you've been an adjuster a long time. Nobody needs to tell you how to be an adjuster. Am I right? Am I right? If you stopped learning about your business 5 years ago, let's say 5 years ago, you decided, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. I've been doing this a long time, and I'm kind of the standard. And so I don't need to learn anything new. If you haven't learned anything new about your job in the last 5 years, it's likely that 50% of what you know is obsolete. That's frightening, isn't it? That's sobering. So when we talk about having a conference and we talk about continuing ed classes and everybody's eyes glaze over, hey, don't look at it as a requirement. Look at it as an opportunity. This is my chance to continue to sharpen my axe. This is my chance to keep my powder dry. This is my chance so that I keep myself deployable and indispensable to companies like Mid-America and to carriers like Germania, TWIA, and the others that we service. AI Agentics. We have a partnership with an AI Agentic firm we're very excited about. AI Agentics is here. The adjuster will have to navigate learning how to work with human and AI colleagues. That's a little different for some of us, isn't it? Man, I was a latecomer to things like Google Gemini and ChatGPT and some of the other AI stuff. I was resistant to it because I'm a writer. I like to write. And I hate that so many people are just letting AI do all their work, right? They're letting them create all their writing and their images and all that. But I thought, at the very least I could use it for proofreading. So about a year ago, I decided I was going to take something I'd written. I was going to give it to ChatGPT to proofread. I figured it'd take, 15, 20 minutes. Not 3 seconds. The thing had read the whole darn thing and analyzed it. And of course, ChatGPT. Here's the thing to remember now. Somewhere, the dumbest person you know is being told by ChatGPT how brilliant they are. So if it's telling you how wonderful you are, take it with a grain of salt. Because when I first saw that, I printed out and ran to Danya and said, my God, look at this. I don't know why I'm not a best-selling author. It'll butter you up. But you know what else it'll do? It'll dice you up. It will analyze everything you gave it and spit out the answer just like that. It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, it's the correlation, it's the combination of the most brilliant minds in the world at your fingertips. At your fingertips. I used to tell kids, right, and I used to speak at colleges as well, and I would say, look, if you're a D student, run with the C students. And if you're a C student, run with the B students. And if you're a B student, hang out with the A students. And if you're an A student, pester the teacher. Find somebody that challenges and stretches you. Well, I don't have to look very far anymore, do I? AI's right there to do it for me. AI's right there to stretch. And I'm going to tell you, we have got to figure out how to incorporate its power, how to harness that power and unleash it in our industry and in our estimates and in our lives, if we're going to remain deployable and indispensable. But there are some things are changing. And if you're a little bit bummed by that, I want to give you some things that are never going to change, okay? Some things that are never going to change, and if you have them, you will always be important as an adjuster. 4 things. Number 1, things that will never change. Number 1, unassailable character. Unassailable character. I'll tell our Adjust You students, because we talk to a lot of people that are just coming into the industry. And they have stars in their eyes, and they have dollar signs in their eyes. And they've heard your stories. And they're excited to become an adjuster. And I tell them at the very beginning, I said, look, I've got the team that if you've got it in you, we'll get it out of you. But if you don't have it in you, we can't put it there. If you've got it in you, we'll get it out of you. It's my way of telling them about the it factor. Now, if you're a sports fan, do we have any sports fans in here? Anybody cheering for Indiana? I got a better question. Is anybody cheering for Miami? Oh, there's one. All right, we have a renegade. I mean, we're on the brink of the greatest story in college football history, right? The biggest story, Cinderella story ever. And it looks to me, when I look at Signetti and everything he's done at every level he's been, I say, man, that coach has it. Whatever it is, he's got it. Everywhere he goes, he succeeds. And we often use the it factor when we talk about sports. We talk about people like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan had the it factor, and his it factor was a competitive will. Nobody ever outcompeted Michael Jordan. Nobody outworked him. I mean, he may have been insanely talented as an offensive player, but he also won Defensive Player of the Year over and over and over again because he had the it factor, competitive will. What about Tom Brady? Tom Brady's it factor was unshakable composure. Does anybody remember the Atlanta Super Bowl a few years ago? It was over at halftime. You could just turn the TV off, except it wasn't over. All you have to do is watch that second half and you see what I'm saying about Tom Brady and the it factor. What about Tiger Woods? If you're old enough to remember when Tiger Woods was the biggest name in golf and one of the biggest names in the world in sports. You know, golfers will tell you, and I'm no golfer, but I have some friends who are. Golfers will tell you they're not competing against each other. They're competing against the course and the elements. Unless Tiger Woods steps on the course, then it's everybody against Tiger. Because Tiger had the it factor. The good thing about being an adjuster is you don't have to be a superstar to have it. You don't have to be a superstar at all. You could be average, you could be a little above average, you could be great. You can be a little below average, but you can still have it. And it's 4 things. Number 1, unassailable character. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? I walked into my grandson's room a while back, and he was killing it. He likes to game, you know. And he had a new game, and he was killing it. I said, man, how do you reckon up all these high scores? He said, well, I have a cheat code. I said, no. Why are you using a cheat code? He said, because that helps me win. I said, what's the satisfaction in winning if you cheat to win? Nobody else is in the whole room. Nobody else is here. Nobody knows how hard you struggled or didn't struggle. Why don't you try to win the hard way? Right? You know what character is? Reputation is what everybody thinks you are. Character is what you are in the dark when nobody else is watching. Character is when you choose the right thing because it's just the right thing to do. Unassailable. I'm going to tell you something. If you're going to be an adjuster and you're going to step on that front porch or you're going to pick up that phone and you're going to represent our clients, you're going to represent our firm, you're going to represent an industry that's always under fire, you're going to be the representative for all of us, you better have character. You better be committed to doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Is it possible to do the right thing and get what you consider the wrong result? Yes, it is. It is. You might cheat and win. You might play fair and lose. But I promise you, if you will have unassailable character and you will do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, it will work out in your favor in the end, I promise. You know what? I don't have to be the greatest adjuster that ever lived. There's so many people in this room that have forgotten more about adjusting than I'll ever know, and I thank God for you. I don't have to be the greatest adjuster that ever lived to be a great adjuster. I can start just by doing right. Today's Martin Luther King Day, so let me give you an MLK quote. He said, "Intelligence plus character is the goal of true education." I just came across that quote the other day. He said it in 1947. I don't know what took me so long. But I'm going to find a plaque and put it on there and put it up at Adjust You because I believe that intelligence plus character is the goal of true education. So, unassailable character. Number 2, knowledge. Knowledge. Knowledge is power. Have you ever heard anybody say that? Knowledge is power. So conversely, if knowledge is power, then ignorance is vulnerability. Let me tell you, the first time I ever walked a property with a public adjuster, it was on my very first storm, which was Katrina. That's a heck of a storm to start with, right? I was on Katrina. I was somewhere outside New Orleans on a farm. It was a farmhouse, and this guy rolls up in a Lincoln Continental, and he gets out, and he looks like he's stepping off the stage of a gangster movie. You know, he's got a silk shirt that's unbuttoned down to here, and he's got his medallion, his hairy chest, and his sunglasses, and he's cool as the other side of the pillow. He doesn't have a care in the world. Easy gait. And he introduces himself to me. He's the public adjuster. And he tells me, I was an independent adjuster. I work for the same company you're working for right now. And I'm going to tell you, as I walked that property with this public adjuster, and I'm as green as I can be. Maybe I've worked 20 claims, maybe 25 at the most. I kept my conversation to a minimum. I watched every word I said because I felt outmanned. I felt like I was walking it with someone who knew more than I did. And when that was over, I was a little bit of a nervous wreck because I felt like the homeowner and the public adjuster and God and everybody who was watching knew I was the least educated person on the property. And I made myself a promise as I was leaving. There would come a day when I would step on a property and I would know more about that claim and that policy than anybody else involved in it. I didn't care who they were. That was a promise I made myself. Knowledge is power. And that, if you have unassailable character and you have knowledge, when you know, that's a powerful thing. Now let me tell you the third thing is understanding. Understanding. Well, what's the difference between knowledge and understanding? Well, I have a grandson. He's almost 3 years old. He'll be 3 years old next month. A year ago, when he was just over 2 years old, his daddy sent me a picture that I shared on Facebook because I thought it was so cool. His daddy sent me a picture. He was behind the wheel of his daddy's work truck, pretending to drive. This kid's 2 years old. And I shared the picture and I said, I think he's extra smart. Now, I could just be, it may be grandpa syndrome, I don't know, but I really think this kid's extra smart. And I shared the picture and I said, the only reason this kid isn't driving this truck is number one, he can't reach the pedals. And number two, his daddy won't give him the keys. He knew what the steering wheel did. He knew the button to push to start the thing. He knew what the gear shift was all about. That's knowledge. Now he's 3 years old nearly, and he knows 2 + 2 = 4 because his mama told him so. That's knowledge. He can't explain it to you. He can't tell you why 2 + 2 = 4. He can't illustrate it for you. He just knows it. The difference between knowledge and understanding, knowledge is knowing the policy. Understanding is knowing why the policy is what it is. Knowledge is knowing the deductible. Understanding is knowing how to apply the deductible, right? Knowledge is knowing that there are exclusions. Understanding is being able to explain and defend those exclusions. You've got to understand what you know. My dad used to say when he would come up against something and he wasn't real clear on it, he'd say, I don't understand everything I know about that. Well, I don't either, Dad, but I'm not going to stop until I do. Because unassailable character, knowledge, understanding, and then let me get you to the last thing, the fourth element of the indispensable adjuster, and that's wisdom. Wisdom. Wisdom is deeper than knowledge. Wisdom is greater than understanding. Knowledge is having the right information, and understanding is the ability to explain or defend that information. Wisdom is knowing when to speak, how to speak, and when to shut up. That's wisdom. Wisdom is the application of the knowledge and the understanding that you've gained. On a warm summer's evening, on a train bound for nowhere, I met up with a gambler. We were both too tired to sleep. So we took turns staring out the window at the darkness till boredom overtook us and he began to speak. He said, son, I've made a life out of reading people's faces, knowing what the cards were by the way they held their eyes. So if you don't mind my saying, I can see you're out of aces. For a taste of your whiskey, I'll give you some advice. You know what the advice was? You gotta know when to hold 'em. You know it? Know when to fold 'em. Know when to walk away and know when to run. You never count your money while you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. Jonathan, can you get me with the red clay strays? I'd like to do a little. In this business, the cards are always changing. AI is dealing, the rules are shifting, another storm is coming. But if you have the character, the knowledge, the understanding, and the wisdom, you'll never have to worry about what hand you've been dealt. even if it's 2025. You'll be the one they call first. You'll be the one they can't do without. You will be deployable. You will be indispensable. So let's get to work. Thank you.